those tanks needed to cross to take over northern I Corps, capture Way City, and the war would basically have been over in 1972 during the Easter Offensive. It's all in this book, and everybody here should buy the book, read about it, and before the movie leaves town, go see it. It's not a shoot-'em-up war story, it's a low-budget production, but the beautiful thing about it is the author interviewed hundreds of Vietnamese soldiers and Marines, and through a translator got their stories, much as many of our stories as American fighters have been documented in countless books. This book tells the Vietnamese story, and it tells the story of what happened to, say, Le Bay Bien, the courageous Vietnamese Marine major who led the fight at Dong Ha Bridge and held off that Russian-style tank army. And believe me, the Russians had advisors there too. We were fighting Russia and China in Vietnam. So without further ado, I present one of these books each of you as a gift conveyed by me, but from Richard Botkin, the author of this book.
Children and my wife, I'd thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom and they can't take that away. I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the ones who died to gain that right to me, and I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston, from New York to LA, there's pride in every American heart. It's time we stand and say, I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the ones who died to gain that right to me, and I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the ones who died to gain that right to me, and I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. God bless the USA.
Please be seated. You know, we're here to honor all our veterans today, and we honored our World War II veterans a couple of years ago, but I noticed that a personal hero of mine, Rusty DeShiello, came in. Battle of the Bulge. Well, much of what you see here at Veterans Park is the result of the Arlington Veterans Park Memorial Foundation, and our president of that foundation is Mr. Albert Ross. He's a practicing lawyer here for the past 55 years, specializing in real estate, bankruptcy, wills, and probate, and he's president of the foundation, as I mentioned, and former president of the Arlington Great Southwest Rotary. Ladies and gentlemen, Albert Ross.
It is truly gratifying to see everyone turn out for our Veterans Day celebrations. We've had these annually for a number of years now, and the addition of the Vietnam Memorial really adds spice to it, as well as all of the Vietnam attendees here today. To give you just a brief history of it, and I will keep it brief, but in 2004, Colonel Jim Persons, a past president of the Great Southwest Rotary Club, and I were having lunch together at Rotary, and Jim observed that we had an Arlington Veterans Park that did not even have a flagpole. And so at that luncheon deal, we conspired and decided that we were going to get a flagpole put out here in this park, and that kicked things off. Subsequently, when we talked with the city about it, they wanted a city flag, and so then we decided we had to add a Texas flag. And in 2005, we chartered a 501c3 tax-exempt foundation called the Great Southwest Rotary Foundation, filed an assumed named certificate to do business as the Arlington Veterans Park Foundation, and embarked upon what you see in the memorial here behind us. It was built in phases. The first phase was the three flagpoles, and the second phase was the memorial, as you see there. We have long-term plans for two more phases that flow down the hill this way, but financing has proved to be a little difficult. But Colonel Persons was one of those Vietnam veterans that was mentioned earlier. 3 combat tours in Vietnam flying C-846 helicopters, and a graduate of Texas A&M. I'm a graduate of the University of Texas, and it was a cooperative effort between A&M and UT alumni to get this here. And I would like to recognize Jim's widow, Sherry Persons. Sherry, if you would stand up. Sherry and Jim married shortly after he graduated from A&M, and she is also a lieutenant colonel in the Marine Wives Corps, and she added much support to the efforts that resulted in these two memorials here today. And we thank everyone for attending. The Arlington Veterans Park Foundation is still in the business of waiting until the economy improves a little bit to do phase 2 and phase 3. When I met Peter Dow and Dr. Dang, and they were talking about their Vietnam Memorial, and we said there's only one place to put that, and that's out here with ours. And you can see what a great job they've done. Thank you for being here, and don't forget we have a free barbecue meal after the event's over. We're over behind the hill.
Thanks, Albert. And now we'll hear from Tom Boyd with the Heroes of South Vietnam Memorial Foundation, who will introduce the executive board members of that foundation. Tom Boyd was a second lieutenant serving in the Republic of Vietnam Airborne Red Beret Division. After the fall of Saigon in 1975, he left his family behind in Vietnam and came to America. He overcame great odds working to provide financial support for his family in Vietnam and studying, and eventually received Bachelor of Science and Master of Science degrees in electrical engineering. He worked for an engineer for a while in the oil industry, and then he opened his own business and became a successful small business owner. He's Vice President of Internal Affairs for the Heroes of South Vietnam Memorial Foundation. Tom Bowie.
As part of program today, I would like to introduce Dr. Dang, Mr. Dow, and Đức Nguyen join us. Dr. Dang is the chairman of the Hero of South Vietnam Memorial Foundation. Peter Dow and Đức Nguyen is a vice chairman, and I am also a vice chairman also. Ladies and gentlemen, today is the Veteran Day. We salute, support, and thank you to many men and women who serve, and those continue to serve to protect our country and our freedom. A celebration to honor veterans for their patriotism, love of country, and willingness to serve and sacrifice for freedom and common good. Together, we can build a bridge between veterans and civilians and to make a better tomorrow for all Americans and the world. I strongly believe that things like one age, color, status do not matter. The most matter in our life is the caring and expression of the heart. This is the most important in the life. To me, the most beautiful thing created by God, it cannot see, but we can feel in the heart. Let me tell you, 4 years ago, when Dr. Dang had an idea to build a monument to honor those Vietnamese and American soldiers who fought and died for freedom of South Vietnam, I did not hesitate to join Dr. Dang and others to form the Hero of South Vietnam Memorial Foundation. And the result, you can see the statue standing behind us. And thank you, Mark Law and his wife, the most beautiful created the statue today. You have a wonderful Veteran Day. Thank you to you, to all of you. God bless us in America. And now may I have some word in the Vietnamese. Kính thưa quý nhân trưởng, quý chiến hữu cùng toàn thể quý vị. Hôm nay là ngày cựu chiến binh Hoa Kỳ. Người Mỹ tổ chức ngày cựu chiến binh để vinh danh kỷ niệm những người lính, những cựu chiến binh của Hoa Kỳ đã hy sinh vì Tổ quốc, vì dân tộc. Chúng ta, những người lính Việt Nam Cộng Hòa, cũng đã bền bỉ đổ máu xương làm tròn bổn phận của người trai thời chiến. Nhưng vì vạn nước điêu linh, chúng ta phải gánh chịu nhiều nghiệt ngã và thiệt thòi nhất. Mỗi năm đến ngày cựu chiến binh, chúng ta thêm một ý nghĩa đặc biệt hơn nếu chúng ta có thể tạo được một nhịp cầu giữa người lính và người dân, đặc biệt là thế hệ trẻ, để có một tương lai tươi sáng hơn cho dân tộc Việt Nam. Tôi xin mượn giây phút của ngày lễ trọng đại này để gửi lời cảm ơn tất cả quý nhân trưởng, quý chiến hữu cùng tất cả quý vị đã yểm trợ chúng tôi trong thời gian rất lâu để làm được một cái di tích lịch sử này, đó là tượng đài chiến sĩ Việt Mỹ Dallas Fort Worth. Xin được cảm ơn tất cả quý vị và xin chúc quý vị có một ngày lễ Veteran Day đầy tự hào, và trong tương lai chúng ta hy vọng rằng đất nước Việt Nam sớm tự do, hạnh phúc, không cộng sản. Xin cảm chào tất cả quý vị.
Thanks, Tom. And now Colonel James Campbell Quick will introduce our speaker.
my honor to introduce Robert T. Hastings Jr., Senior Vice President, Communications and Government Affairs at Bell Helicopter and Chief of Staff there. Mr. Hastings joined Bell Helicopter from Northrop Grumman, where he served as Vice President of Communication. He served in the Bush administration as Acting Assistant Secretary of Defense for Public Affairs. Before joining the Defense Department, he served as Chief of Staff and Vice President of Communications for BAE Systems Incorporated. Hastings is a retired U.S. Army officer, colonel, with more than 20 years of experience as a master Army aviator. He likes to stay in planes rather than jump out of them, and public affairs officer. He continues to serve as a colonel, chief of staff with the Texas Military Forces. In 2009, he was awarded the Department of Defense Distinguished Public Service Medal. He was honored by the University of Maryland, his alma mater, college, with the 2010 Distinguished Alumni, and by the Public Relations Society of America with the 2010 Lloyd B. Dennis Distinguished Leadership Award. He's a licensed commercial pilot and has completed executive studies at the Wharton Business School and the University of Michigan. Please help me in welcoming Mr. Hastings.
So thank you. Obviously, he got a hold of the version of the bio my mother wrote. So first of all, Congressman Barton, Mr. Mayor, City Council, all the distinguished guests that are here, veterans, I want to thank you for being here today. Thank you for the invitation. I have to start, first of all, by saying happy birthday to my Marine brothers and sisters that are in the room. They're celebrating yesterday 240 years. Hoorah! I would be remiss, however, if I didn't remind you that the United States Army celebrated its 240th birthday about 5 months ago. So I'm deeply honored to join you here today. Veterans Day is it's a very important day for Americans. It's important to me as well. Like all of you here, I'm an American. I know that the blessings of liberty that my family and I enjoy have been earned by veterans. Veterans who served before me, veterans who served with me, veterans who continue to serve today. And I'm doubly pleased to be here today as we give a special salute to Vietnam veterans. I grew up in the home of a Vietnam veteran. My father served in Vietnam, and I saw and witnessed and believe that the appropriate gratitude from his nation at that time when he returned home was never expressed. He served for many years in the VFW, and I know he enjoyed the comfort and camaraderie of his fellow Vietnam veterans. Unfortunately today, he's suffering from the effects of Agent Orange, and it's slowly taking away his quality of life. He remains a proud soldier, and I'm proud of him. So I'd like to once again ask for a round of applause for all the Vietnam veterans that are here. So we set Veterans Day aside each year to celebrate, really to remember, to honor the men and women who served our nation in time of peace and in time of war. Today we pay tribute to every soldier, sailor, airman, Marine, Coast Guardsman, and Merchant Marine who voluntarily served to protect our nation, our values, and our way of life. We remember those that came home and those that did not. Those that fired their weapons in anger, those that vigilantly stood on the wall during Cold Wars, those that have fallen, those that are wounded, those that remain unaccounted for. And we have to remember the sacrifices of their families as well. As we stand here in this serene setting in the wonderful state of Texas, in this fabulous Arlington Veterans Memorial, it's almost easy to forget that today we remain a nation at war. We slept safely in our homes last night. We had breakfast with our families this morning. Some of us drove our children to school. This upcoming weekend, we'll enjoy sports, we'll mow our lawns, we'll go to the mall, maybe play a round of golf. It is almost easy to forget we're a nation at war. But those of us that are gathered here today know better, right? We remember, we know, we remember. Today there are more than 150,000 soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines that are stationed outside the United States. They're in 150 countries around the world. There are 70,000 that are on deployments in contingency operations around the world that are in harm's way. There are 9,800 soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines still in Afghanistan, and we're back up to 3,500 troops in Iraq. And just last month, a Special Forces soldier gave his life in Syria, and I read that that soldier was on his 14th combat deployment. 14 combat deployments. Since current combat operations began in October 2001, there have been more than 7,000 American servicemen and women who've given their lives in combat, and more than 52,000 have come home with wounds. Here in Texas, we have 3 major Army posts, 6 Air Force bases, the Corpus Christi Naval Air Station, we've got the Texas Air and Army National Guard, and the Joint Reserve Base, Fort Worth, right in our own backyard. Texas is home to more military personnel than any other state in the Union. I find it interesting this summer we read in the news about the secret invasion of Texas by the United States Army, and I wonder about all those folks that forgot about Fort Bliss and Fort Hood. We Texans know how well the sacrifices, we know well the sacrifices of our troops and their families. So Texas has always been a land of patriots. We've always responded when our nation called, and Texans are well represented on the rolls of decorated heroes. Let me introduce you to a few. Army Specialist Monica Brown, Lake Jackson, Texas, earned the Silver Star for saving the lives of fellow soldiers after a roadside bomb tore through a convoy of Humvees in eastern Afghanistan. After the explosion, which wounded 5 soldiers in her unit, Specialist Brown ran through insurgent gunfire and used her body to shield wounded comrades as mortar rounds fell just yards away and administered life-saving first aid. I think I read she was 19 when she did that. Army Specialist Michael Carter, a native Texan, Silver Star recipient, was drawn into ferocious mountainside battle while assigned as a combat cameraman covering Special Forces operations in Afghanistan. Carter ditched his camera, charged forward, laying down suppressive fire to recover a wounded soldier, providing first aid while continuing to engage the enemy. When the enemy closed within 40 feet, Carter stood his ground and laid suppressive fire to block their advance. With danger-close airstrikes exploding less than 100 yards away, Carter used his body to shield casualties from falling debris and insisted in a daring rescue down a vertical 60-foot cliff. I know Specialist Carter. He was about 21 when he did that. Marine Captain Joshua Glover, right here of Dallas, earned the Silver Star for twice in one day leading his platoon deep into enemy territory during the infamous Battle of Fallujah. Captain Glover repeatedly exposed himself to enemy fire as he engaged targets at point-blank range while directing his platoon in close combat with the enemy. And to go back to our theme today of Vietnam, by my count, there were 29 Sons of Texas who earned the Medal of Honor in Vietnam. Texas is, has been, will always be the embodiment of the land of the free and the home of the brave. A few years ago, the term the greatest generation was coined in remembrance of the millions of Americans who served in World War II. And I'm sure we have World War II veterans here with us today, along with veterans from not only Vietnam, but Korea, Grenada, Panama, Bosnia, Kosovo, Iraq, Afghanistan, the list could go on. From the liberation of Europe and the Pacific, to the defeat of communism, to the fight against extremism today, America owes a debt to many great generations. So in my previous role, working with the Bush administration and even today as a defense contractor, I have the honored privilege of knowing many who currently serve in the armed forces. I'm pleased to tell you that today's armed forces is today's greatest generation. And despite repeated deployments into harsh and dangerous environments, they are up to the challenge. They're the best trained military our nation has ever fielded, and they continue to serve voluntarily to re-enlist in record numbers in what has become our nation's longest period of war. They ask only one thing, our gratitude, but we owe them so much more. More than 200 years ago, our first president, George Washington, said the willingness with which our young people are likely to serve in any war, no matter how justified, shall be directly proportional to how they perceive the veterans of earlier wars are treated and appreciated by their nation. Today's returning veterans and their families face many challenges, maybe not so different from previous conflicts, but it does seem as though sometimes we as a society struggle to provide them the care and support they deserve. We owe our veterans the very best in health care, not just for their battlefield wounds, but for their lifelong needs, both physical and emotional. We owe our veterans education and training to ensure good jobs that they can support themselves and their families with the dignity they earned on the battlefield. We owe them opportunities to continue to contribute as valued members of our society regardless of their ailments. And we owe them our respect, which is again what today is all about. So I have a handwritten sign that hangs in my office. It was written by a wounded Navy SEAL and taped on the door of his hospital room at the Naval Medical Center in Bethesda. This SEAL had been shot a number of times. He had a tracheal tube in place for 7 months. He eventually underwent 26 surgeries. When he first arrived at Walter Reed, Bethesda, he couldn't speak because of the trach, and he had limited mobility due to his wounds, but he managed to write a message. I'm going to read it to you. It reads, "If you are coming into this room with sorrow or to feel sorry for my wounds, go elsewhere. The wounds I received, I got in a job I love, doing it for people I love, supporting the freedom of a country I deeply love. I am incredibly tough and will make a full recovery." What is full? That is the utmost, absolute, physically, my body has the ability to recover. Then I will push about 20% farther through sheer mental tenacity. The room you are about to enter is a room of fun, optimism, and intense, rapid regrowth. If you are not prepared for that, go elsewhere. So I don't know where that SEAL is today. I lost track, but I do know that he did return from Walter Reed to active duty, and the last I heard, he was working to get qualified to return to a SEAL team. So in closing, let me repeat a quote that you've all heard many times. I hope it doesn't bore you, but I'm sure it's being read at ceremonies like this all across our nation today. It has been said that the soldier, not the reporter, who has given us freedom of the press. It is the soldier, not the poet, who has given us freedom of speech. It is the soldier, not the agitator, who has given us freedom to protest. It is the soldier who salutes the flag, serves beneath the flag, whose coffin is draped by the flag, who gives the protesters the freedom to abuse and burn the flag. So thank you for inviting me to join you at the celebration today. God bless you all for attending. God bless our veterans. God bless the young men and women who serve our country and go in harm's way every day. And God bless the United States of America. Cool.
Thank you, Colonel Hastings. And now we're going to ask Congressman Barton and Colonel Hastings to help us to give a small token of our appreciation to all the Vietnam veterans who happen to be here today. If you registered, we've got some information about you. If you didn't register, I hope you checked in with Susie McAllister in the tent, and she's given us some information about you too. What we're going to do is we're going to call your name, and this is Lynn Bit Dow, and she's going to read the Vietnamese names. I will read an American name. She'll read the Vietnamese name, and then we will, the Vietnamese American name, I should say. And then we'll ask you to come down here and form a line here and come by and receive your medal from either Colonel Hastings or Congressman Joe Barton. So I'm going to move, I'm going to just take a moment here to move this up here so that we'll both have a microphone. James R. Anderson, United States Air Force, Lieutenant Colonel.
Trung úy Nguyễn Thành Thiện, ở tù Cộng sản 4 năm.
Robert James Armstrong III, United States Air Force Sergeant.
Thiếu úy Bùi Tấn Ngọc, ở tù Cộng sản 6 năm.
Michael Badgett, United States Army Captain.
Trung úy Cao Hữu Hùng.
Robert J. Bradell, United States Army Captain.
Thiếu úy Trần Hoàng, ở tù Cộng sản 6 năm.
Adolfo Claros, United States Air Force.
Trung úy Đặng Thành Tuấn.
Pete V. Fuentes, United States Army Specialist 5th Class.
Trung sĩ Nguyễn Nghiêm.
Don Gates, United States Air Force Senior Master Sergeant.
Thiếu úy Trần Văn Hà.
John R. Bob Gilbert, United States Army Captain.
Trung sĩ Vi Ninh.
Richard D. Henley, United States Navy Hospital Corpsman 2nd Class.
Đại úy Hà Văn Hương.
Peter G. Jacobs, United States Marine Corps Colonel.
Trung úy Vũ Lê.
William Kent, United States Marine Corps Captain.
Thiếu úy Newton Đỗ Nhật.
William Latham, United States Army, Major General.
Đại úy Alfonso Hoàng.
Walter J. McMahon, United States Marine Corps and the United States Army.
Trung sĩ Đoàn Văn Long.
Tom Roberts, United States Army, Sergeant.
Thiếu úy dược sĩ Paul Phúc Nguyễn.
Donald Methvin, United States Air Force, Captain.
Trung úy Trần Quốc Khanh.
Gregory Meyer, United States Navy Petty Officer, 3rd Class.
Đại úy Phạm Đức Lâm.
Kenneth W. O'Neill, United States Marine Corps and United States Air Force, Master Sergeant.
Trung úy Nguyễn Kim Thanh.
John M. Peace, United States Air Force, Sergeant.
Đại tá Lê Đình Luân, ở tù Cộng sản 17 năm.
Dean Payton, United States Army, Air
Đại-
Force, Major.
Đại úy Vũ Thanh, ở tù Cộng sản 6 năm.
Kenneth R. Polhemus, United States Marine Corps, Captain.
Đại úy Nguyễn Hiếu Dũng, ở tù Cộng sản 8 năm.
Colonel James Campbell Quick, United States Air Force.
Thiếu úy Thung Nguyễn, ở tù Cộng sản 6 năm 4 tháng.
James B. Reed, United States Army, Sergeant.
Thiếu úy Trần Ngọc Tâm, ở tù Cộng sản 6 năm.
Robert A. Reynolds, United States Air Force.
Hạnh Tạ.
James D. Runsheimer, United States Army Captain, and Jim Runsheimer was the principal planner for this and for the October 25th event.
Trung úy Lê Văn Lợi, binh chủng quân cảnh, Hội quân cảnh Dallas Fort Worth.
Larry Paul Smith, United States Navy Petty Officer, 2nd Class.
Bảo Trần.
John Thomas, United States Navy Petty Officer, 2nd Class.
Trần Sơn, trung sĩ nhất, đặc biệt, tỉnh Quảng Nam.
John H. Wagner II, United States